the Indian Supreme Court has given a very important judgment with respect to the Rohingya illegal immigrants into India. The Rohingyas are originally the citizens of Myanmar. Once their citizenship is cancelled by the Myanmar state, they became stateless people. In fact, the United Nations High Commission on Refugees designates them as refugees. And for all the signatories of UN Convention on Refugees, there is a provision which is called as non-refoulement, which means that if any person comes to your territory seeking refuge, you should not send them back to the territory of their origin. Primarily because if they are sent back to the territory of origin, they might be tortured, they might be subject to some kind of violence. That is the reason why this convention has been made. But Indian government has never signed the UN Convention on Refugees, and we have the right to definitely deport them back to Myanmar. In fact, if you look at the Supreme Court judgment, it has quoted the Foreigner Act, which contains a section called Section 3. And under the Section 3, it is stated very clearly that Foreigner Act says that the central government has the power to prohibit, regulate, restrict entry and deport foreigners, and the power of the central government for the same is absolute and unlimited. And going by this provision, the central government has the right to deport the Rohingyas. And over and above this, the Supreme Court also made a very interesting observation, saying that even though Article 21, that is right to life, and Article 14, that is right to equality, are guaranteed by the Indian Constitution, both to the citizens and foreigners, a very important article in the Indian Constitution, that is Article 19(1)(e), that is right to reside and settle in any part of India, is only given to the citizens but not to any foreigners. And as the illegal immigrants are creating an enormous burden on already overextended resources of India, the right approach should be taken by the government in order to deport all such illegal immigrants by identifying them at a quick pace. India, after conducting Operation Sindoor, has stated very clearly that we have conducted high precision targeted attacks on the terror camps and terror launch pads which are present in Pakistan. We have targeted nearly 9 locations, and the Indian government has claimed that more than 100 terrorists have been killed in the terror strikes. On the other side, initially Pakistan stated that only a few civilians of Pakistan have been killed and none of the attacks were targeted against terrorists. But yesterday's news coming out from Pakistan clearly proves that Pakistan had been lying all along. Why? Primarily because a photograph of the funeral rites being conducted to the people who have been killed in the air strikes shows that definitely Pakistan has been hit where it hurts it most. In fact, if we observe this, in a photograph, some globally designated terrorists along with the Pak army personnel were paying their last respect to the terrorists. In fact, they have been draped with the national flag of Pakistan and are being given their final honors as if they are some dignitaries of Pakistan. This is the way in which Pakistan has been supporting terrorism. And the photograph that came out clearly shows a person by the name of Hafiz Abdur Rauf. And Hafiz Abdur Rauf is a globally designated terrorist, and he was leading the prayers, and along with that, he is also the head of Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation, which is a designated terrorist organization. And apart from that, based on the news that are coming out from Pakistan, JEM, Jaish-e-Mohammed's commander by the name of Abdul Rauf Azhar, who is the brother of Maulana Masood Azhar, has been killed in the airstrikes, and he was a very important personality and the mastermind behind IC-814 hijack, which was conducted in the year 1999. In fact, India should definitely internationalize this Pakistan support to terrorism, and along with that, we also should try to in fact designate TRF also as a global terrorist organization under United Nations Security Council 1267 resolution. And over and above that, we also start or restart our efforts to grey list Pakistan in a Financial Action Task Force list. Competition Commission of India has redefined predatory pricing. We all know that the Competition Commission of India has been set up under Competition Act of 2002 in order to regulate predatory pricing, monopolization practices and acquisitions and mergers in order to maintain fair competition in free market capitalism. In fact, this predatory pricing is defined under the original 2002 Act itself to be a practice where a product or service is priced below its cost with an aim to reduce competition and eliminate competitors. In fact, we have been seeing the online platforms have been resorting to predatory pricing, wherein they are selling the products at prices much below the cost of production in order to eliminate the competitors, in order to establish a monopoly. That is the reason why the CCI has defined, and the Competition Act also provides a definition for predatory pricing. Now, in determination of how the cost of a good has to be calculated, the Competition Commission of India stated that the cost of a product should be considered as the average variable cost, and the average variable cost is attained by dividing the total variable cost by the total output during a particular period, and this total variable cost would be assessed by considering everything that goes into production of a product minus fixed costs and fixed overheads of the product. To put it simply, whatever good is produced, whatever products go into the production of good, their cost would be calculated, and the fixed costs and fixed overheads would be substituted or subtracted, and a total variable cost would be attained. And this total variable cost would be divided by total output, and this will lead to average variable cost. And if any company sells the product below the average variable cost, it would be considered as a predatory pricing practice. Particularly, the online platforms like Amazon and Flipkart have to be careful, primarily because Competition Commission of India is going to apply this new definition of predatory pricing on a case-to-case basis in order to regulate this practice. A new Pope has been elected for the Catholic world. He is none other than Leo XIV, whose original name is Robert Prevost, and he is the first American citizen to be elected as a Pope. And apart from his duty as the religious head of the Catholic world, he is also the sovereign head of the Vatican City. In fact, Vatican City is one of the smallest nations in the entire world, and the Pope, apart from his religious authority, he is also the political head of the Vatican City. In fact, Robert Prevost had a unique background. Even though he was born in Chicago of USA, most of his time he spent in the Peru region, and he has the dual citizenship of both USA and Peru. And along with that, in fact, if you look at the background of Robert Prevost, he is a person of Augustinian religious order, and he has been groomed specifically by Pope Francis in order to succeed him. And he functioned in various roles for the Catholic Church, ranging from a missionary to an archbishop to a cardinal, and he also headed the office of Vatican City, which vetted the popes or vetted the bishops across the world. Then over and above that, if we look at Robert Prevost, he has been elected as the 267th Pope of the Catholic world, and he in fact has a little bit of conservative views when compared to Pope Francis, who was the first Pope to in fact openly accept LGBTQ rights. If you look at the views of the new Pope, he was always against the practice of abortion, he was against same-sex marriages and even LGBTQ rights, he was against death penalty, and he was against the anti-immigration policies of Trump, but he was a person who is deeply concerned about climate change and always encouraged the church members to participate actively in the fight against climate change. And Robert Prevost, being the first American Pope, in fact is a new message which is being sent to the American continents, primarily because majority of the Catholic population in the world today is present in the American continents, but not in the place of origin of the Catholicism, that is either in Europe or Asia. Thank you.